into effect, we can't just unilaterally do it. We are, though, on one side, the advisor. We also are the defender. We defend the city in every lawsuit that the city's involved in. And that could be somewhere in the port, the DWP, the airport. It could be a workers' compensation claim. It could be against LAPD. It could be against sanitation, the building and safety. Whatever the nature of that lawsuit is, our office is the council that represents the city of LA. Now, sometimes we have to use outside counsel, and we've been judicious about using outside counsel. We use outside counsel only in rare circumstances where there are, one, a direct conflict that's not waivable, or a conflict where we can't get a waiver, or where we have a manpower shortage and we're not able to handle it in-house. So, because of just, basically a workload issue. On the other side of the office, besides collecting all the debts and everything else, on the other side of the office, we are the city prosecutor. And we take what LAPD does, and we are the representatives in the courtroom. We represent the people of the state of California, and we enforce what filings that we file with the court. For example, if LAPD would make an arrest for drunk driving, that file will be presented to our office. Someone in our filing unit would look at that file, determine whether or not there's been a crime committed, and then what we would do at that point is file that case, and we would, as the people of the state versus whoever the defendant is. So on one hand, I am the city attorney, and I represent the city of Los Angeles. And then I take that hat off and I put on another hat, and I represent the people of the state of California, a much different client. So our office is somewhat divided, if you will, right down the middle, criminal and civil. And we maintain a pretty significant wall between the two, although there are circumstances when we do communicate, but they're very rare, and we have issues that when those issues come up, we make sure that we operate within the bounds of ethics, the rules of professional conduct that controls us. But in every single instance that we act under the charter, we are independent. And it's very important that you have an independent city attorney. Regardless of who that city attorney is, it's important that that city attorney be one that can provide the checks and balances in government to make sure that the advice that's given is good, solid legal advice, not weighted one way or another. And sometimes you as a city attorney, you give advice and you take heat for it. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's your job. You have to give solid, good legal advice. I've been challenged just recently on advice that we gave LAPD, where another elected official said that our advice was wrong. But it went up to the Attorney General, and it came back down, and the Attorney General said we were correct. But we took a lot of heat for it in the process. But that's what you have to do as the city attorney, because if we're wrong, trust me, we get sued. And I don't need any more work. So with that being said, I mean, there's been a number of issues that we've handled in this neighborhood council's jurisdiction. We've had Lincoln Place settlement, which I want to personally thank Jane Usher. She took the bull by the horn. That was one that nobody thought would ever come to fruition. That was almost like the El Pueblo leases. I mean, that was another one where 25 years of no leases, and we finally got leases, down there in El Pueblo. We're in the midst of the Venice Boardwalk ordinance right now. We have the oversized parking ordinance that we got passed, and it's being enforced now by LAPD. LAPD is doing a great job there. We had the RV waste dumping prosecutions that were successfully handled. We're working on the unlawful camping and sleeping on the boardwalk. We still have the daily problems of Third and Rose sidewalk enforcement. We have the vandalism tiger injunction that we've now passed, and when people are subject to it, it's been held as constitutional. So we're working hard in this neighborhood council district. We've had a number of successes. In terms of billboards, which when we took office, this particular council district had some issues with illegal billboards. We've been very, very successful. I don't think we have a finalized loss on anything so far in billboards. We've been over 1,000 illegal boards have come down. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there may be 1 or 2 illegal super graphics, but I can't think of where they would be located. I mean, we've got the big wall sheet signs down. And so the quality of life issues in Los Angeles have gone up in the last few years. We've collected a number of dollars in taxes. And rather than me just sit here and talk to you about the successes of our office, on the table there's the city attorney newsletter. And not only it tells you about what happened, but it tells you the lawyers that handled the case and how many great lawyers there are. That's the one thing that if I had to brag about, I want to brag about the guys in the office. When we took over the office, it was somewhat fractionalized. Nobody was talking to anyone else. And in putting this office back in order, I can tell you that I've found nothing but very, very dedicated civil servants that do just a lot of hard work. And these guys are being furloughed 36 days a year. Now you think about that, 36 days a year, that's like a 4-day work week when the courts are open 5 days. And they've had to endure that 36-day furlough because of budgetary problems. But, staffing aside, I came in on Saturday or Sunday into the office, and I went through the parking lot, and there was 20, 30 cars down there, people just showing up for work. We have a very, very dedicated office. The success rate has been just phenomenal in terms of civil liability lawsuits that we've defended. I'm sure you heard on the radio recently that there's been a $120 million lawsuit filed against the city of Los Angeles involving a shooting on the 101, and we'll be defending that lawsuit. I mean, the work continues to come in, and when I took office, we had about 647 lawyers. We're down to about 493, I think, now. And we're doing more work with less people. And we've also reduced our outside counsel from somewhere in the $30 million range down to about $7 or $8 million. So we're beating on all 8 cylinders over there at the city attorney's office. It's been truly been an adventure for me, and I'm very proud to be your city attorney, and I'm proud to be here tonight. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Sure, thank you so much. I have people have submitted cards. I'm going to ask them to give their questions, and then you can answer or not as you see fit. I just wanted to ask you one, since I have the mic, I'll ask the first one. When you mentioned the enforcement of the various laws, I know there's been a lot of misunderstanding around the certain law settlements that don't allow you to enforce certain things. And could you just very briefly, because there's a lot of misunderstanding in the community about what that means and why you can't enforce certain things, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, are you talking about the Jones?
Yeah.
Okay. First off, Jones versus City of Los Angeles is a matter that is a settlement, and by its terms, it applies to every section of the city, not just to Skid Row. That's one of the things that people sometimes get confused, that it applies only to Skid Row. It does not. It applies to the entire city. Under the terms of Jones, the city cannot enforce the prohibition on sleeping on sidewalks between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. But the city can enforce the prohibition at all other times of the day. All right? Now, one of the things that I think that falls into this issue is the oceanfront walk. And the question there is, can you sleep on oceanfront walk? And the answer is no. There's been a policy in effect for over 30 years, since 1989, that oceanfront walk is part of the adjacent Venice Beach Park. And since it's part of the park, there's a curfew. And, you know, let's talk about, for a second, to analogize this, the walkway from, I guess it would be First Street to the stairs going up to City Hall. That walkway down in downtown LA, going from First Street to City Hall up the stairs, that walkway is part of the park. Just like Oceanfront Park or walk is part of the Venice Beach Park. And so by sleeping on that walkway, you'd be violating our park curfew. And the same thing holds for Oceanfront Walk.
Thank you.
Now, the other one is Levon versus the City of Los Angeles. And Levon is a much different application. Levon is a preliminary injunction that was issued by a federal district court with application only to Skid Row. Now, this is under appeal right now. We are appealing to the Ninth Circuit. We believe that we're right in our appeal. The ruling is unclear, and in our view, it's erroneous. We cannot behave without caution here in Venice because of the law. The spirit of that order says that we cannot just seize people's property and take it. The court has placed protections on the property of people who are sleeping on the streets in Los Angeles down in Skid Row. And the spirit of that order will extend out. And if you think, well, listen, we're not personally subject to it here in Venice. Well, at the end of the day, that's just a court filing away to get it extended. So we need to be cautious about how we work through this while the Court of Appeals is considering it. And so you'll see what we're doing today down on Gladys Street in downtown LA. We've been working with LAPD and providing guidelines to LAPD as to how they can work within the Levon decision, because at the end of the day, there is a public health and public safety limitation in Levon. So we need to understand that, but we also have to understand that just because you're 20 miles from downtown LA doesn't mean that injunction can't apply out here by mere extension. We have to operate within the spirit of what the judge found in that case so that we don't run afoul of it and have that thing extended.
This is working? That was very clarifying. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to prerogative of the chair to take the first question, but I'm going to call people to line up, if you could please, in order, and please ask a question rather than making a statement. What? Oh, maybe we can move this mic up closer. Could we do that, Jed? Would you mind moving it up so we're not so far away? Mark Lippman, followed by Stuart Oscars, followed by Peggy Lee Kennedy, followed by Dee Dee Ardette.
What? No.
You know? Dee Dee, no, forget Dee Dee. She's, okay. Shally McPherson, someone named Mike, but I don't know Mike who. Okay, if you could line up, and then I have others as well. Okay, Mark Lippman. Oh, okay, perfect. Great place for the mic, except your back is to people. Okay. Mark, welcome.
Mr. City Attorney.
Slide the switch on the side of it. There you go. Yeah.
Mr. Trutanech, thank you for being here tonight. Just to preface my question here. when you speak of these quality of life enhancement programs, the initiatives that the city is taking, from what I hear, a lot of this is really criminalizing and persecuting and prosecuting the poorest of the poor in our communities. And just from a moral standpoint and a humanistic standpoint, I have a serious problem with that. But that's not the question that I want to address to you today. I'd like to preface the question with an article from the Los Angeles Times dated June 7th. And excuse me for the title, but I didn't write it. Carmen Trutanech has a disappointing showing in DA's race. Quoting LA Times, Trutanech has been accused of being too heavy-handed with...
Is this a question?
Yes, it is.
It has to be a question.
Yes, it is. Trutanech has been accused of being too heavy-handed with political protesters and others. And my question is that, considering the immense budget shortfalls we have, to prosecute citizens who are concerned about the direction of their government, who are airing grievances with their government, legitimate grievances, I have a problem with the city attorney's office actually persecuting these cases that, for the most part, are very trivial in nature. And I would like to ask you when you will stop the persecution of political protesters. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
First off, the heavy-handedness that you're talking about is an APS program, Alternative Prosecution Program. In fact, one gentleman in the room was an Occupy LA protester, came up to me, and he received a letter from us. And the letter basically was, attend this Alternative Prosecution Program, which is a 1-hour lecture on the First Amendment that tells you what the First Amendment protects and what it doesn't protect. And we basically are all for protecting speech. We don't care about the content of what your speech is. But when you take a bottle and throw it at a police officer, that's no longer speech. That's conduct.
Excuse me, Carmen, but my question is why contact information when headed to time of my arrest had been changed because my friend informed me that there may be a bench warrant out for me, and that was my concern. Not to log your program.
Again, like I said, what happened in that circumstance is that he was given an APS program, offered an alternative to prosecution, not prosecuted. And we've done that with almost, I think there were 400 people or so arrested. And so far, I believe only 50 or so people have actually been filed on in court. Yeah. I didn't arrest one soul, and neither did anyone in my office. These were arrests that were effectuated by the Los Angeles Police Department based upon observations by officers. And then the files come to our office, and we file those cases based upon what's in those police reports. And then what we do is we evaluate what is a particular disposition that should be available to these people. And the vast majority of them receive the APS Alternative Prosecution Program.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Trutanech, for helping Venice. Appreciate it. I'm sorry. I'm Stuart Oscars, live in Venice. So in Venice, in terms of population, in CD11, we have 17% of the population. We have 17%. We have 70% of the marijuana clinics in the council district. So my question is, with this disparity that we're affected by, in the aggressive nature of most of the businesses and the people wearing scrubs down on the oceanfront walking to the park, how will we ever see a day when the marijuana clinics are closed down?
First off, so that everybody knows, I didn't write 215, nor did I write 420, nor did anyone in our office write 215 or 420. But just like when LAPD came to us and asked us about the impound policy, we had to opine on what the law said. We had to opine as to what the legislature had written. Not what we wanted to have written there, not what people wanted. The legislature carved out a sliver of basically of providing marijuana to medically infirm people. What they didn't do is what everybody wanted them to do, and that was to open up and legalize it. And so when we give the advice that listen, sales of marijuana are illegal, it's not because I feel that way. In fact, when I first took office, we had 30 cases that were teed up to go to enforcement, and I stopped it. And I said, no. I said, I believe this is what the law says, but let's take it to court and find out what the law actually does say. And so we took it to Judge Chalfant. What's the name of that kid again? Hemp Factory. We took that one file to court, and the judge laid out what he believed to be the law. Since then, we've had Mensch, and we've had PAC, and we've had a whole series of cases trying to understand what this law, what is the parameters of it. Right now, it's in front of the Supreme Court, and we expect to have a decision clarifying exactly what 215 and 420 actually says from the Supreme Court. At that point, once we have clarification from the Supreme Court of the state of California, then whatever the parameters are, LAPD will then operate in accordance with those parameters if someone's violating the law and present those cases to us for enforcement. Now, right now, as the law is written, sales of marijuana is a straight felony, which does not fall into my area. That's the district attorney's area. What we do is abatements, and we can do misdemeanor prosecutions. And so when we receive a number of complaints, and believe me, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, when we get a number of complaints involving a particular entity, we'll take a look and see if those complaints are valid. And those are complaints from folks like yourselves, neighbors of a particular medical marijuana dispensary. We just don't go through the phone book and start picking places out. We do it on the basis of who's telling us that these places are operating illegally. And then we'll put together an abatement action based upon what you folks are saying, not what we believe.
Point of information, but can you just say what's in the 420 is? Good point, thank you very much.
The Compassionate Use Act, which is basically, the law that provided access to medical marijuana to folks in California, and the MMP Marijuana Program Act, which basically was the vehicle to get marijuana to the public.
Thank you. Okay. Shally McPherson, introduce yourself. And Peggy Lee, and then I want to call up Lisa Green and Deborah Lashaver and Jim Uriz.
Thank you, Shally McPherson, thank you for showing up, Nooch. It's always a pleasure to see your smiling face. I have some specific questions. I gave you a copy of this, and it's very important to all of us in Venice. It's our beach. And now, it's governed, the California Coastal Commission governs the beach and a mile. However, the city sort of owns the beach and the oceanfront walk and the beach parking lots. The city has a joint powers agreement with the LA County. It's kind of conflicted here. And it gives the county control over the areas west of oceanfront walk, including the beach and the beach parking lots. I have 3 questions. When does the current agreement expire? We think it's 2014, we're not sure. How long would any extension likely be? These things run about 10 years. Can the VNC have a seat at the table for these discussions? Because this is our backyard. It's very important to us. Thank you very much.
I believe the agreement ends in 2015, but I can't, but I can't be sure. I don't remember how it would. I mean, I have a crystal ball, but I don't know. It doesn't work. I don't know how long that's a policy decision that the council and the board of supervisors will enter into. And can the Venice Neighborhood Council have a seat at the table for these discussions? You should work with your council person to have that happen.
What about working with you on this?
I'm not a policy guy, I'm a legal guy.
Okay.
Well, look, if you want to work with us and provide us input, we'll be glad to pass it on. But the most direct way is to work with the guy sitting at the table, the guy who's got one of the 15 votes. Yeah, I mean, you just...
Sorry.
Sorry. But if you want to give me a call, I'll be glad to sit down and discuss ways to facilitate your involvement in that.
It seems like the Venice residential community has been thoroughly screwed over as far as the beach is concerned. Thank you. You have time for
Peggy Lee Kennedy.
Hi, Peggy.
My grandmother came here during the Depression, and because poor people, single women with children who worked in factories could afford to live here and buy property. And that's my history. I have a small problem. I'd like to see the city of Los Angeles spend its money on positive solutions to homelessness, but instead it spends it on criminalization, prosecution, incarceration, and lawsuits. There's no solution to homelessness, and it is inhumane. I don't think appealing a lawsuit that says you can't throw a homeless person's belongings away is really anything to be proud of, or making laws that would remove homeless people from an area by criminalizing them is anything to be proud of. Something to be proud of would be finding real solutions somehow.
Question.
And my question is,
Yes.
sir and madam, is that how can the city attorneys, turn a little bit into a more positive direction that would encourage working with solutions, real solutions like housing people, because that is the real solution here, and the rest is not.
Well, I really believe housing is the solution, and we have to find a way to get there. But, in the interim, we're still stuck with a problem. Like today on Gladys Street, they found just an inordinate amount of hypodermic needles. They found human feces thrown down the manhole cover in the middle of the street. There are public safety, public health issues that present itself by living in a circumstance that's not clean. And we're finding that now on Skid Row. I don't know how many of you have been down there, but it's mainly a place where you drive by at 30 miles an hour, but the conditions were deplorable.
County Health says get them toilets.
Well, we are right now working with County Health. County Health is out there with us, and for the next 14 days, we'll be providing guidelines within the 11 decision to accommodate the people that are down there. But it's a short-term fix on a bad situation. But the city of Los Angeles has to find something other than the streets for people to live on.
That's right.
And at the end of the day, I'm charged with the task of maintaining the public health, maintaining public safety within the confines of what laws exist on the books today. And as a result of that, we are working with LAPD, we are working with county health, we are working with the council, we are working with members of the community, the Central City East Association, in trying to accomplish the yin and the yang of this. This is a very difficult situation because you have people who invest probably the largest portion of their life savings into a home or into a business, who, in an area like Venice or down in the central city, who want to have a quality of life. And then you have other people that say, look, the beach belongs to the world, and we should be able to live here. And it's if you can help me find a solution, you know, listen, I'm all for it. But it can't be just one way. It has to accommodate both sides. And that's the problem that we have with the issues that are before us right now. They're not easy issues, folks. Let me have Jane, who's dealing specifically with this, talk to you about your question, Jane.
So, Mitch, I'm a little bit astonished because there's very little to add to what you said. But what I want the audience to know is we have a court that has indicated, if you take the logical extension of the Levon Court, at what point does the city of Los Angeles have to provide free storage on the sidewalks for all of your things? For everybody's things. And at what point does that have to give way to a clean and clear sidewalk? And Nooch, Peggy, I don't think anybody in this room has 100% of the wisdom on the answer to that conundrum, but we have to work toward the answer. And it does involve every piece of that equation and every constituency. You're right about that.
Good answer.
Thank you very much, Jim. Okay, Lisa Green, and I want to ask all the questioners, the city attorney has to leave soon, so if you can make your questions really short and concise, and we'll be able to answer more of them before he has to leave. I'd like to get everybody in, and so would he, but we can have like long statements if you don't mind. Okay, Lisa.
Lisa Green. I think Peggy said it well, so I don't have much to add to that except for, you said a really important word that matters to me, spirit. You said the spirit of the law, and in Venice, spirit matters a lot to us. So I'm going to ask you to remember the spirit of the law, equal justice for all.
Let me tell you, I do. And I'm very cognizant.
And I'll be there in your sleep to remind you, I love you. Okay.
I'm very cognizant of that. But you have to understand that as open of a heart that each and every one of us have in terms of wanting to provide a healthy environment, there are people out there that will take advantage of the fact that there's a crevice in the law. For example, let's say me. I live down in Harbor City, and if it's okay to store your stuff, there's a storage unit right a block from my house, but I can put my stuff on the street there, and nobody can take it, and the police can't touch it, and I can block the sidewalk. And so a guy like me who has a home can take advantage of that aspect of the law. We have to find an answer that's fair to everyone. And it's very difficult to carve that answer out, folks. You know, when you sit in a situation where you want to be fair to everybody, it's almost like you're fair to nobody because everybody gets burned a little bit. And it doesn't feel good to read about how insensitive you are when you're trying not to be. But unfortunately, you cannot please everybody with what you do, period.
Okay, Deborah, before you start, I'm going to call the next people to line up, please. Jim Urias, Karen Wolf, Nick Antonicello, and Mike. I called you before, but you're not here. Are you Mike? Mike, okay. Okay, Deborah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Deborah Stetter. I'm Richard on Allegheny, and I thank you for being here today and answering some questions. A couple of comments that you made really hit me too. One thing is you said that you were concerned with the safety and health of everyone in Los Angeles. You also said that you're concerned with accommodating both sides. I do want to ask you, you know the resources are not being made available downtown or on 3rd Street or anywhere in Venice. The bathrooms are not available. There are no centers for people to put their belongings in. There are no resources for showers or washing facilities for them. There's no wonder that these people are dirty. They're carrying around things. They're storing things on the street. And sir, I really hope that you don't have to store your stuff on the street. That would be very tragic if the city wasn't paying you enough to store your stuff. I hope that they are. But I really want to ask you, whose quality of life are you really improving here? Are you improving the quality of all the people's life in the city, or just the people that have money? Thank you.
Firstly, the wealth of any particular person, resident of the city, is not a consideration when we make a decision as to what we do. I used my own example of storing stuff as opposed to using another person. It wasn't a real life situation, and hopefully it doesn't become one. But at the end of the day, I am cognizant of the people that do live on the street. I am cognizant of the conditions that they live under. And I am cognizant of the fact that they may very well need a ton of services that this city may not be able to afford to be able to provide for. But at the end of the day, hypodermic needles, 5-gallon pills full of human excrement, children living in those conditions, next to those conditions, is something that should not ever take place in a city as great as the city as Los Angeles. You know,
That's all it takes, just put bathrooms out there.
Nooch, you're going to regret letting me speak to this, but Deborah, I did want you to know that we've been privy to many conversations, as I bet you have, on this issue of public restrooms. And it continues to be the point of view of the people whose job it is to police those restrooms, and that includes everybody from business people such as yourself to LAPD and Public Works and everybody in between. The most recent conversation that I heard, their conclusion was that those facilities have very quickly become home to prostitution, crime, very difficult enforcement situations. So let me just share with you some of the conversations that are being had about what could be done. I thought it was very positive, the idea of going to every social service provider and trying to get bathrooms accessible from the outside on the ground floor level that are part of an ongoing facility where there's eyes and ears and staffing and cleanliness and so forth. Trying to think of some additional solutions.
Listen, we're not in we don't have a rock on answers. If you have solutions, if you have ideas, send them to us. I mean, we are trying, we're struggling with a situation that's not a pleasant situation. And, you know, we will go to our clients, we'll go to LAPD, we'll go to the council, we'll go to the mayor, and we'll express these solutions. I mean, it's difficult. I understand what people are going through. I used to live in a beach community, and I know how intimate it is. And to have the issues that face you guys here is a very difficult situation because, like I said, it's the yin and the yang of life, both sides.
I wish that you would err on the side of human compassion rather than erring on the side of militarization. Thank you.
Okay, next is Jim Barris, but I just have to tell you, I don't think you were here when we introduced Jim, who's our resident father of the new Olympic star. His daughter's trying out. She's in the Olympics, so you want to say that. And actually, since that's how I know Jane, we worked together in the '84 Olympics, and so did Jim's wife, Melanie. If you remember Melanie. So it goes around. Congratulations. I have to say that.
So my question has to do with the quality of life issue. Several years ago, I was involved in planting a few trees in Venice. And I have watched many of those trees be destroyed by the billboard companies. When you drive back to the city, you drive down Venice Boulevard, you'll see that in front of every single billboard from here all the way to the 405, the tops of the trees have all been completely cut off at the billboards. If you get a block away, the trees are twice the height of the trees that are in front of the buildings. We brought to the attention of the city on several occasions the trees that are on Venice Boulevard at Lincoln, and the city doesn't prosecute people that are responsible. They don't prosecute the private property owners that go out and top the trees or that completely remove them out of the public right-of-way. Why is it that your office can't seem to dig into that and deal with it? There's laws in the books for that.
I don't recall having a case like that referred to us. I don't have a police force. I have a couple of investigators, but I don't have a police force. We don't make arrests in the city attorney's office. What we do, like I said earlier, when I structured what we do in the office, is LAPD will go out and observe a crime, like say drunk driving, or better yet, somebody chopping down a tree. They will then talk to that person, make a determination whether or not the person is operating lawfully or not. They'll write a report. They may arrest that person. In that case, if they arrest that person for doing that, we have 72 hours in which to file that case, or he gets a release. If we don't file it, the guy gets released, and then what ends up happening is that that case will get presented to us for filing. We have not been presented with a case involving illegal tree trimming. But if we got one, I can assure you that if it was an illegal tree trimming operation to enhance a billboard, to enhance a billboard operation, you're going to have to get mine in the car. Okay, I can guarantee you that we would file it.
Thank you. Just to add to that, we did do one case like that at the airport, and we were successful. But the key to cases like that, almost every case, we need witnesses, we need evidence, we need all of the things that you would expect us to have before we leapt to the conclusion. So help us. We're ready.
You know, you have to have witnesses in order to prove a case. The mere fact that the tree was topped, who did it? You know, it's like when you drive down the freeway and you see, somebody tags a freeway sign. How many times have you seen that? You know, you don't know. You wonder how in the hell they get up there to do that. Tigers are like baby pigeons. You know they exist. You just never see it. And the same thing with tree trimmers.
I have two financial questions. My first question is the proliferation of lawsuits against the city. What percentage of these, how many active pending lawsuits are against the city of Los Angeles currently? And what percentage are settled out of court? What is the cost of the city of Los Angeles? My second question is, what was your operating budget number last year, and what is the projected operating budget for this year? And are you working at a deficit in terms of new revenue, or are you having an increased budget for 2013?
I'm going to give you estimates. Is that okay? Because I don't have the exact numbers on top of my fingertips, but I would venture to guess that we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,500 to 2,800 open lawsuits in the city of LA. They represent about a claim for about $2 billion in damages, and that does not include the cost of attorney's fees, the cost of injunctive relief, and punitive damages if they've been awarded. So if you added all that in, it's probably closer to $3.4 billion in exposure. And that does not include our workers' compensation cases. We probably have open now, I think we've reduced the backlog a little bit, probably 4,000 cases. Somewhere around 4,000 workers' compensation cases. When we took office, we had around 5,000. When I took office, my predecessor had a budget of $113 million and actually spent $117 million. My first budget was $95 million against a payroll of $99 million, which meant the day I took office, I was $4 million overdrawn. And that doesn't include the cost of paper and toner and things, pencils and things that you need to run an office. So you add about another $6 to $7 million in incidentals to run an office, and we were about maybe $12 million overdrawn, walking in the door, an expected deficit. And we finished our first year with a $300,000 surplus. We were rewarded the following year for doing so well, with an $84 million budget against a $95 million payroll. And then there was a 3.5% COLA as a result of some layoffs that took place. So in essence, we were given about an $81 million budget against a $95 million payroll. And we finished, after we borrowed $1.8 million from the previous year, because we were expecting a settlement, we finished with a $250,000 surplus our second year. We're going into our third year. Okay. We're going into our third year, so we went 3 years. We'll be completing our third year coming up real quick. In the course of 3 years, so they can understand this, I have not hired one person. Not a lawyer, not a secretary, not a paralegal, no one. We've not hired anybody, and we haven't replaced anyone. And the reason is that we don't have the funds, and our lawyers are working 36 days a year less and not getting paid for it. So it's been a very, very challenging time. I can tell you this, I can't give you the, Bill, do you have the exact numbers on what our budget allocation was for settlements? Our budget allocation, that means they allocate us in a budgetary period, $34 million this last year. That has been down. I think our first year was what, close to, our first year was 43. We're down to 34 allocated, and we haven't used all that money. So we're winning lawsuits. We've won. Since we've been there, we've saved the city about $225 million in terms of cases that we've taken to court and received either verdicts in favor of the city or favorable verdicts that we have. And I'd love to give you an example. I know that this mic is getting pulled from me. So I'll give you an example of how we work on these cases, because every single civil case that goes to trial gets tried in front of me, Bill, Jane, Kurt, and we make sure that our lawyers are prepared, that the evidence is there, and that they're going to be presenting the best case in light of the city of Los Angeles. And so far, it's been a pretty successful formula, and we've had a lot of success. Now I'll give this to Jane. Don't give up. Don't give up. Yeah, don't give up. We'll talk all night. I'm Bill Carter. I'm the chief deputy. And the one thing I want to add is Nooch. For people who don't know what Nooch means, it means junior, if anyone cares. But Nooch is a very good trial lawyer. Jane is a very good trial lawyer, and I'm a trial lawyer. We're all litigators. We all come from a litigation background. My background is actually more environmental, consumer, civil rights. I come out of the OSHA background, working with environmental cases, water pollution, hazardous waste. So when you're talking about these tree cases or environmental cases, we need evidence. And when someone brings a case in, we need a witness. Who trimmed that tree? And it's a credible witness. You bring that case to us, we'll prosecute it. I'm a very aggressive environmental crimes prosecutor. I was one of the people assigned by Nooch to work on the RV dumping cases. To me, dumping human waste where people walk is one of the most egregious crimes you can have in a misdemeanor office. And if you see environmental crimes, water pollution, dumping, we'll do that case. And I'll do it, and I will personally work on it. And I have been doing that. With respect to the budget, Nooch has tasked me to work on the budget, and we have been drastically cut since the day he walked in.
With that said, we've made an effort to settle cases. The vast majority of civil cases settle because you try to settle a case rather than run the risk of litigation, because you never know what's going to happen with a jury or another verdict. However, when we cannot settle, there are cases where someone will say, I want $12 million. And we'll say, the case isn't worth $12 million. The city may be liable. We'll offer to pay you $1 million because that's what your damages are. Maybe someone got injured at a stop sign. They want $12 million. We think it's only worth $1 million. We have to go to trial. So since we've been here, we've had over 38 trials where people have said, we wanted the city to pay more than we're willing to pay. We've won over 129 of those. So of those, we've only lost about 10. And those are cases where people ask for 10, 20, $30 million. One of the very first cases that Nooch and I had the displeasure of having to oversee was where, unfortunately, a young child was killed, was shot during a LAPD SWAT case. The child was being held hostage by her father, and LAPD went in to save that child's life. Unfortunately, the father was waving a gun around, and LAPD came in, and the child was killed. And the family was asking for about $30 million. And we did not feel that SWAT did anything wrong. We thought that they did the right thing. And it was a tragic situation. It was a terrible case to have to sit through. But our lawyers tried it because Nooch said, LAPD did nothing wrong. We're going to try that case. And we sweated that out. And our lawyers won. Jury came back, but the judge came back, LAPD's not liable. And that's what we do. And so the city was saved about $30 million. That's what we do.
He's the boss. You see, he's the boss. But I feel like we've left you with a strange impression because you've heard that our budget has been somewhere around 10 million or more less than payroll. And then Nooch tells you that we came in with a surplus, right? And you're probably sitting there saying, wait a minute, that doesn't compute, that doesn't add up. How are they doing that? I think we need to tell you, we've taken upon ourselves to find consumer protection cases where we're entitled, if we win, if we prevail, to civil penalties. And so that's how we're balancing our budget. It may not be the priority you'd like us to attend to, but we figure in these fiscal times with this being upside down, it is not only prudent and economically sensible and the only way to run this railroad, but we're doing some good for consumers as we pursue. So there's the how we pulled the rabbit out of the hat, and it is really tough.
Let me, if you take this thing here, you'll see that we've got, like Jane said, we also get some of the money that we could collect, like the city attorney's office collected more than 8.8 million in funds owed to the city, and the council will give us a piece of that. So we start in the hole, and we have to dig ourselves out of the hole all year long, and we're very cognizant about what we spend and how we manage our assets so that we don't end up in a situation where we have to lay people off, because in 3 years, we've been working with furloughs and attrition to help balance our budget. Let me give you one example of a case that we lost, but how you won. There was a case where a gentleman went to Mexico, got hurt, came back, and LAPD was responding to a call, ran a red light, and there was a collision in an intersection at 1.5 miles per hour. No airbags deployed, nothing. But the plaintiff made a claim for about $8.8 million against the city of LA because he said he needed a craniotomy. We had our trial in my office. with the lawyers handling the case. And they wanted me to give them $5 million to settle the case. And they were adamant about, we're going to lose, we're going to lose, we're going to lose. I believe that the gentleman got hurt in Mexico. I just, I've been doing this for 30 years. I just know a good case when I see one, and I just said, this guy is, it's a case where I don't think the city is responsible. I said, give me the file. And I took the file home with me on a Friday night, and I worked on that file all weekend. I called a friend of mine who is a head of neurology at a hospital in Linwood. And I said, Sal, can you do me a favor? Can you take a look at this case? So I met him at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning at his home. And I gave him the MRIs. And we went through the whole case. And he showed me where this injury was pre-existing. And we came back on Monday morning, put my lawyers in touch with this doctor. We altered the way we tried the case and presented our evidence. And sure enough, and we walked into court. And we admitted running the red light. And the jury came against us for $180,000. We saved, by just taking that case to trial, on settlement, at least 4.8, and on the man, 8.6. So this is the way this office operates, and it's really great to be at the top of it.
Okay. We're going to do one more question. We have a huge full agenda, and then I'm sorry if you did get called. If you want to submit written questions, I'll definitely get them to the city attorney for you, and hopefully someone will answer. Last one, and this is very important to Venice, so I want Laura Szilagyi to ask this question.
Okay, this question is a matter of health and safety. And it's something that we kind of asked the city attorney to look into, and we haven't really gotten any response about it. And I am the co-chair of the Venice Neighborhood Council Santa Monica Airport Committee.
Sorry, what was your name?
Laura Szilagyi, S-I-L-A-G-I. Yes. Okay, so the question that I have is, what can be done by your office to assist the residents of Venice to help us deal with the Santa Monica City, this is a city policy called the Fly Neighborly Program. This is not an FAA program. This is Santa Monica City program, which has the prop planes from Santa Monica Airport fly south over Venice and then north over Mar Vista. And as you know, this is a health issue with lead. It's also an issue with children's learning disabilities. Many schools are involved. So anyhow, what can you do to help us?
I'm guessing you know there was an alternative flight plan. There was another way that the planes could have gone.
No, that's not part of that. That's a jet issue. This is a prop issue.
Very good.
Totally.
Okay, thanks for correcting me. We've met with the City of Santa Monica. We've talked to the FAA. I think you probably know that the FAA is even a tougher nut to crack than you might find City Hall is. They have really strong views about that airport, and it's very difficult to discern the City of Santa Monica's views because they're quite cordial to us, but you can see that nothing has happened. Here's what would be so great. It would be so great if the entire city of Los Angeles, if the city of Los Angeles could embrace this as a public health issue for the residents who live in the vicinity of the airport. We make it really tough on ourselves when we say, Bill Rosendahl, this is your issue. You're all by yourselves. You're all alone. So if you could help us, help the balance of the city family understand the importance of this issue, that would be, I feel like that might be the key to unlocking some real action.
No, I agree with Jane that The FAA is very, very difficult, or even harder than the Coastal Commission to deal with. And they are the supreme authority on this area. I understand the public health issues. There are some technologies that we're looking at. We're also looking at, if we could allocate the resources citywide to be able to address this, because it is a major league issue for people in the Venice area, the Santa Monica Airport. I've met with some of the people on this, and I've met with Bill on this issue, and it boils down to what does the rest of the city want to invest in order to take on this project, because it's going to be a massive undertaking.
Mr. City Attorney, I thank you so much for attending our meeting. You're welcome. We have an open invitation if you've ever come back. You see, you said to me, I'm not the ogre. Well, neither is Venice. We can behave and be all grown up and act nice, so thank you so much for coming.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad to answer your question.
Before people leave, I just wanted to announce that there's a meeting having to do with the zip lines and the Coastal Commission on September, that's when you meant, right? July 2nd, 1 o'clock at the Venice Library. If you're concerned about the zip line issue that this board supported, but there's opposition, it's an important meeting, 1 p.m., July 2nd at the Venice Library. And it's with the Board of Public Works and the I forget the other one, but it's for dual permit, and they're coming to us, which is always what we prefer, and which is why we have elected officials come here as often as possible, so we don't have to go downtown if we don't have to. So thank you very much, and so we'll have an easy transition. The next thing, we're going to go into election of officers, board officers, and then we're going to quickly go into the consent calendar, which should take a few minutes, and then we're going into the community care facilities.